Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday evening. I have a wonderful guest tonight. Denise Miller is here, and she is going to be sharing about deepening your relationship with God using visual faith. Welcome, Denise. We're so glad you're here.
Hi.
Denise is in Florida, just like me. We're about 2 hours apart from each other. And in case for all those people who are having the snow, it was, I think, almost 80 degrees here today. We love it.
Too hot for February, but I'm not going to complain.
No, I'm not complaining either. So, well, let us begin in prayer. So, I'm going to pray for us. I'm going to start with Psalm 107, verse 1. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Father, we come to you this evening with open minds, open ears, and open hearts, and we ask to be encouraged. We ask to be delighted in your word and interact with you creatively. We give thanks for Visual Faith Ministry, the tools and practices that they share so willingly, for remembering, trusting, discipling, and telling of the good news. We ask that you would strengthen each of us to have more consistent prayer time with you. So I'm going to play our video, What is Visual Faith? And just a little hint. So this video is on the front page of our website. It is on our YouTube channel. So if you have anybody you're trying to explain what is visual faith, log into either one of those places and push this button and play this video, because it will answer all the questions that you're going to struggle to answer. So So hopefully that answered people's questions, and maybe you got a chance to actually look a little closer, because we talk about our mission and our vision that we have for a visual faith ministry. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest, Denise. Denise has always loved color and has found many ways to express that love over her lifetime, in such ways as needlework, quilting, and scrapbooking. After homeschooling her 6 children, amazing, for close to 20 years, Denise found her love for art journaling, and you're going to see a lot of that tonight. Presently, she enjoys Bible journaling, teaching art classes, selling her art, and trying new art techniques, and digging into God's Word daily. Denise has been married for over 30 years. She accepted Jesus Christ as her Savior during her teens, and she's been involved in many churches, women's, and children's ministries, because she's lived in over 30 different addresses and now lives in Florida, as I mentioned. She most importantly loves being Grammy to her 3 grandchildren. So welcome, Denise. We're so glad you're here this evening.
Thank you.
So let's start by, can you share a little bit about your visual faith story of how you came to start doing visual faith? Because it sounds like you've always been an artist, and how did your faith come into your art? Can you share a little bit about that?
It's funny because I would not have said I have always been an artist.
Okay.
I would say I've been an artist probably for 10 years.
Okay.
But growing up, even though I did a ton of stitchery and all quilting and things like that, if you had asked me, I would have said, no, of course not.
Mhm.
I was a social worker, or I was a mom, or I homeschooled. But as much as I loved color, it was more in Excel spreadsheets for my kids' chore charts, you know? Um,
Okay.
So how I actually kind of fell back into art is my cousin was passing through. I think we lived in Tennessee at the time. And she said outright, "What are you doing creatively?" And I was like, "I'm just surviving each day. I mean, I have 6 kids, I'm homeschooling. What do you mean creative?" And she's like, "We are all creative human beings. You need to create." And I went, "Okay." And it was as much as that. Next day, I thought art journaling popped into my head. I mean, God puts these seeds in. And I looked it up and went, "That's what I'm going to do." And that's started about 10 years ago, 10 years ago. Learning, kind of expressing myself a little bit about my background. Before I turned 1, we moved from New Jersey to Bogota, Colombia. Lived overseas for 3 or 4 years, moved back, went to kindergarten. And for me, I spoke 1 language, but it was actually 2 languages. I just didn't know what was English, what was Spanish.
Oh, okay.
And that didn't go well. Teachers told my parents not to speak any Spanish in the house. I would never learn English if they spoke it. And I was actually punished in school every time I spoke a Spanish word.
Oh, no.
And, you know, for a little child not knowing what was English, what was Spanish, I was always standing in the corner of the classroom facing the corner because I was always in trouble because I didn't know what was English, what was Spanish.
Oh.
Thank goodness we've come a long way.
Yes.
So in all of that, I also had a speech impediment. I couldn't say R, so car was cow. So I didn't have that beautiful Spanish rolling R at all. Couldn't say it.
Okay.
Then I had learning disabilities. So you add speaking Spanish and English mixed, having a speech impediment, and then, which I found out in 9th grade, I was dyslexic, but they didn't know when I was younger. They just kept pushing me through saying, she's fine, she's fine. My mother did keep me back in 4th grade. We moved. And she fought with the school and said, you know, my daughter doesn't read. She's in 4th grade. Let's keep her back. And they did. Thank goodness. But I had a Spanish teacher in 9th grade. I was failing Spanish. And she said, you know, you read better upside down than you read normally. So she did all the paperwork. Sure enough, found out I was dyslexic. But in all of that, learning to express myself, not being able to write, I still can't spell worth beans, it was always an issue. So when I started art journaling, I had never kept a journal, writing journal. You kind of learn to, I don't want to say manipulate, but you do. You learn how to deal with the world differently. So here comes art into my life after my cousin visited. I look at all this beautiful stuff and it's all writing, beautiful writing, you know, and I'm like, not happening.
Right.
But what did happen, I found, is because I had been a Christian since I was a teenager in Miami. My faith has always been extremely important to me. And it just, it comes out in your art. And I learned that I could write out a Bible verse. And I think one of our examples today has one of the Psalms or something where I just started writing, you know, out of the Bible, or even just like a single word. I mean, anything like that was just amazing for me, who could not express myself. All of a sudden, I found this fabulous outlet where I could express myself.
Wonderful. Let's look at a couple of examples of Denise's work. If you haven't seen her, you're going to be amazed of what art journaling can really be. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, this one is actually in my first art journal. So we're talking 9-10 years ago. I don't know if you can see it on the top. It says moving, moving, moving.
Yes.
And I think we've moved probably 6 times since then. No exaggeration. I think we were living in Tennessee at the time. And I was just expressing myself, how, you know, moving once again, relationships, leaving people, and how I felt. But as you can see, for me, this is a massive amount of writing.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't feel that way because one of the wonderful things in art and in an art journal is it's for you. Well, here you all are seeing it, but as a whole, it's not on a canvas. It's not being sold. You can keep that page closed forever. You can paint over it and no one even see what you write. So you can spell things wrong, punctuation wrong, grammar wrong. It does not matter. This is for you, and it's a way to express yourself to God too. It's a prayer life.
Mm-hmm.
You can put anything you're feeling down on that page.
Well, one of
and
the
you
things,
can cover it up, and no one else needs to know.
Exactly. Well, one of the things I want people to notice as I'm listening to Denise is that what art journaling can be, this is one example, is telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
So as she said, look at all the places she's lived, and they're not even all on there, obviously. But just the fact that she started with a thought of, yeah, I move. Okay. And then, like you said, she kind of wrote her feelings about it. And with the colors and everything, but it's telling a little portion of your story. And that's what we all talk about at Visual Faith, is be able to look back and see where you were in your faith walk at that point in time. Here's another one that I really like. Now, tell us, this is more, if somebody was going to say, well, this looks more like what I call faith art. And the reason is because you're expressing, is that a prayer, Bible verse?
This is a prayer. It's called the Shalom Prayer. And this is very close to the beginning of my art journaling walk, I guess you could say. And I just wanted different size pages. I sewed it together. It's just pages that I threw some paint on and stamped. And then I was learning how to do some different handwriting ways. And one of the things that I like is my handwriting is very, very messy, but my grandkids will one day find this and go, oh my gosh, that's Grammy's handwriting.
Right.
So as much as almost all of us hate our handwriting, it's so important to write in your handwriting. Now, this, obviously, I try to write neatly, but in my Bible, I often use my handwriting a lot, actually, because I think it's important,
Okay. Well, I love that. One of the things, if you don't know Denise is a mixed media faith artist. So Denise, quickly tell us, because everybody goes, what is that? Because I'm a mixed media faith artist too. So go ahead. I'm going to let you explain, what is mixed media faith art?
Well, mixed media just means you're using two or more mediums. And honestly, that could be a pen and a marker. So really all of us are mixed media. But if you get into more, I guess, if you would to Google mixed media, what normally comes up is acrylic paint, markers. See, my thing keeps going in and out, and you notice my
look
camera.
fine. Yeah, you look fine.
I keep looking at myself going, woo. But anything from markers, pens, paper, glue, paint, you just throw it all on, layers on layers upon layers, adding anything in, things from magazines. And that's, if you want to jump ahead into where I learned actual visual faith. I had moved to Michigan.
Okay.
And
is this the one?
Met Candy, one of my neighbors. And in the retreat, we go into a little bit more detail on how we met. So I won't say tonight, but all of a sudden I got on their website and I was like, oh, look at all this stuff I can print and rip and get these images for free. I was so excited. And I use it a lot. I use it a ton. Now, these are pictures out of what we call a junk journal. Junk journal just means you get your pages from magazines, paper, junk, what you have around your house. You don't have to buy anything. And then I just sew the pages together. And then I write something out, whatever happens to be, that has a stamp, that has paint, that has a washi tape on it, has stickers, marker, all on one page.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful one. I like this page.
That bird actually came out of a magazine, and then I had some stamps on it, and then, obviously a Bible verse written. I love to add, obviously, my faith in it. Just one time, it makes me spend time with God, but at the same time, it deepens my relationship with him. And for me, it's just part of my life. I don't really sit there and go, oh, let me do some faith art right now. It's just, that's what's important to me. And that's what I'm thinking of. That's what's on my mind. Okay. This is just paint, acrylic paint. And then I wrote in white pen on top, Psalm 139.
Beautiful.
And this is another time I was wrestling with something. And this is another out of my original art journal. And when I got the journal out recently, I hadn't looked at it in years and years and years. And I read through this. I said, oh, I didn't even know I was struggling with that back then. Oh, it was really a shock. Because one of my learning disabilities also is I have horrible memory issues. I mean, I don't really remember what I did yesterday and never have. So I always kind of like live in the present. So it was kind of fun going down memory lane and going, wow, this is what I was really wrestling with God. I didn't realize that.
Well, Denise, you're like every one of us. We all have memory issues, meaning, do I remember something from last week, 2 weeks ago? But that's what we always talk about in visual faith, is that if you take that time to be in the moment with God, and you creating something, whatever it is, mixed media, just doodles, whatever, then that is kind of a stake in the sand to say, this is where I was at that day. So you can go back, and that does help our memory. Oh, like you said, oh, that's where I was. Oh, that's really interesting. I've come so far. Or, wow, I'm still dealing with the same issue. That's what I find all the time. I have in my Bible, I've had the same Bible for 25 years. And I look and I go, oh, I'm going to read this. And then I go, oh, look how many times I've read that verse. Wow, I'm still reading it. And I'm still getting something else out of it. And then this one,
when you're in God's word, it doesn't come back void or whatever. I mean, you learn something every time. And since I have such a bad memory, honestly, I can read the same verse every few months and I go, oh, my goodness. And I'm like, I'm sure I thought that like 20 other times.
And I love this. Tell us about this piece, because I'm working on something very similar to this.
Yes, these are visual faith. I'm going to forget her name, the artist. What's her name?
Sally Beck.
Thank you. And I downloaded her beautiful artwork from Visual Faith, ministry.com site or .whatever site, org, and made a background. The background is just different pages that I have done in the past with blue. And I think the big waves on the left came out of a magazine, and glued them on, and then wrote a little prayer.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
It doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't take a lot of room. It really, a couple pens and glue, it doesn't take a lot of money. Now, for me, as an artist, now I teach art, and I've invested in some of, better art supplies. But to begin with, I had nothing. I mean, really, I had crayons that my kids were using and markers, and that was it.
Well, the other thing I want to remind everybody is that Denise is one of our presenters for the Abide Retreat, which will be next Saturday. We are, 11 days away. I can't believe it's so close. Anyway, Denise was wonderful. And when you purchase the Works ticket, we have a series of 8 videos that Denise, and then Candace and Denise made one of all mixed media, like all the questions you want to ask. What glue should I use? What adhesive? What's the deal about paint? So if you're in the retreat, the Works package is the great package, because you're going to see all these great videos that she made for us. So thank you very much. The one question that I would love to hear you answer, Denise, is, so you're a mom with learning disabilities, and then you just said you homeschooled 6 children. Okay. How did you do that? What challenges did you face?
And I homeschooled my youngest, who we adopted from Russia, who are special needs with huge learning disabilities as well. And then out of my 6, 5 have ADHD. Only one is extremely hyper. The rest are just ADD type. But now they kind of throw them all together under ADHD. They kind of separate them. What you learn when you homeschool is there is a lot of special needs children in the homeschool community. And there's a lot of parents who they are trying everything they can to help their children, and they're not, or they don't feel they're getting that in the school system. I am not anti-school at all. But that's the choice we made. And I actually tried to put the youngest 2 in school when we were in Tennessee, and the psychiatrist at that school said, you need to keep homeschooling these children. So I said, okay, I will. But I've also worked a lot with homeschool children, some of it through the homeschool community and some as work after I homeschooled. I went back to work. And what I have found, artwork is just, it's wonderful for all type of people, but especially for someone who cannot express themselves, an autistic child, a Down syndrome child, just a child who has executive dysfunction, which, their brain is here, but they can't even hold a pencil. So, is down here, and they have that gap. The ability just to open up and do art. I did a lot of art, and my girls loved it. My boys, not so much. But, an interesting story. My son had a very hard time with small motor skills, holding a pencil. And when we lived in Tennessee, there was a wonderful program that had half the morning was art, the other half was theater. And the art teacher came to me, and she's like, he can't even draw a circle and put like eyes in a mouth. And I said, I know. And she's like, but he's like 12. I said, yeah, I know. And she's like, okay, well, as long as you're okay with it, we're going to be happy with anything he produces. And I said, totally fine. Well, we go on a field trip to an art museum, and I'm like in every room going, and he's bored to death. He's like, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? Well, we walk into the abstract room, and that is my least favorite. And so I'm like, oh, this is boring. And I hear this, and I look to my son, and he goes, Mom, this is the most beautiful stuff I've ever seen. And I'm like, it's a blue square. I mean, it was like nothing. There's not even a tree. What are you talking about? And he's like, this just speaks to me. So here is a child who cannot do art in the sense what we would say is art. He can't draw a face. But what he loved and what spoke to him was something that doesn't speak to me in the least, but it does to him. So we all are different. We all perceive things differently. There is no wrong in art. We do something and we compare ourselves to others, but that's not right either, because how you see that is how you see it. I could draw a blue circle and show it to you, and you're looking at it going, it's purple. What is she talking about, blue?
Well, thanks for that. So you've obviously had a lot of challenges and you've overcome them, and we're so happy where you are at. We've got so many comments, so hold on. I have to scroll back.
Yeah, I don't see them on my screen.
No, you can't till I click on them. Let's see. Hold on. A lot of people are just saying welcome. Oh, here's a good one. This is a good comment. Do you want to read the comments?
Yes, and if I can't read a word, you can jump in.
Oh, okay.
No, I can do it.
Read them.
Sometimes we need permission to be creative, don't we? Yes, very much. And this past year, I know, has been a struggle for a lot of people. But for me, it's been the most freeing year of my 56 years on this planet. And the reason why is I have always felt guilty being in my art room. I should be doing something else. I should be out making money. I should be, and when I had kids, obviously I need to be teaching. I need to be doing chore charts. I need to be doing all this stuff. So art, I always felt as I'm kind of lazy to sit in the corner and do art. I shouldn't be doing that. So this year comes about. I do home health care. I work with elderly with dementia, and which is a whole art thing in itself, which art's wonderful for people who are having memory problems. But I can't work in that. I'm at home, can't leave, and walked into my art room and was like, oh, I can spend the whole day in here and not feel guilty. And it's been that way the whole year. And I start back to work tomorrow.
Oh, no.
I'll be feeling guilty again. But art is wonderful, and it is for everyone.
It is. I love Connie's comment. Learning challenges are so hard to diagnose.
Very much so.
I would absolutely agree.
And it's interesting when you've worked around a lot of children now is the spectrum children, the autistic children. And when I lived in Tennessee, we attended a very large mega church, and I ran their special needs program. And it was very hard. You have a lot of parents who come to you going, is there something wrong with my child? And I'm like, do you really want me to tell you?
Right.
Okay, let me tell you. You need to change their diet. You need to get their dyes out, And, but it was wonderful. We had a girl there who's still there, and she's very low functioning. She will always be a toddler. She has, can't remember the name of, it'll pop in my head in a little bit. It's one of my brain issues, but she could only rip paper. And so I was not just going to have her rip blank paper. So I would print out Bible verses and Bible stories. And so she would be ripping it because she liked the noise of it. But I thought, well, she's ripping at least.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And Jenny says, I saw a quote recently, our creativity is our heritage as children of the one who created all things, and nurturing our creativity is the stewarding of one of God's good gifts to us. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Very much so. And everything is creativity. How you dress, how you do your hair, how you cook, how you garden. When people say I'm not creative, I'm like, yes, you are. You just don't know you're creative,
Mm-hmm. Oh, here, Jenny also said your handwriting. I treasure anything written by my grandparents and my mother. I would agree with you. I have recipe cards my mother wrote. My mother was left-handed, and her writing, when you look at it, looks like it was printed off a computer. It's so perfect for a left-handed person. So I just treasure that gosh, she writes so much better than me, and I'm right-handed. But
I was ambidextrous, and they made me
really?
write in school. Yeah. So now I can't do anything with my left.
So Donna said, I really like your handwriting, Denise Miller. I love expressive lines. So very neat lines tend to bore me. I would much rather read handwriting that is not uniform. I agree with you, Donna, because that's my kind of handwriting too. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Eden said, I'm very drawn to these. I think the addition of all the elements allows layers of meaning too. Oh, yes. Let's talk about that, because you and I are the same. We kind of do the same thing. So one of the things I love what Denise said about she's not really a writer. Writing is hard for her to express herself just in writing. Well, one of the great things when I teach art, mixed media art, is what we call hidden journaling. So just take a piece of paper, and you're going to see Denise is going to show this at the retreat. But anyway, you take a piece of paper and you just start writing, and nobody's looking at what you're writing. You're just writing all over the entire page. Just pour it all out. And then people say, well, I don't want anybody to read that. That was like from my heart. So you can do what? Tell us a couple of things you can do with that, Denise.
Well, first of all, it's kind of called streams of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And you just start writing. And it could be anything, because nothing ever comes to my mind immediately. So I'll start like, it's raining outside. And why am I writing this? Nothing's coming to mind. And every single time, all of a sudden, these thoughts start popping. Prayers and just things that I'm wrestling with, and it just comes all out. And before you know it, which if I was consciously thinking about it, I could come up with maybe a sentence or two. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you don't have to do punctuation, you're just kind of going like this, it just starts flowing. Mm-hmm. And it's so freeing for me who can't write, and all of a sudden I've written 5 pages. But you can write by turning your page constantly. So you write this way, and then you're writing over it, and then you're writing the backwards mm-hmm. or whatever. You can layer, in the sense of you actually put paint over the top of it, or you put paper over the top of it. Really any type. You do big and sloppy markers that are, mush into each other that you really can't see. And that's if you don't want someone to see what you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one who, I'm doing a Bible study right now at our church, and there's a lot of sections that we're supposed to like write this heavy duty stuff out. And I read the question, I'm like, I'm not putting that on paper. What if I die like 5 minutes from now? Someone's going to see all that stuff. So what I find out is I either leave it blank or I go, oh, I'll write it somewhere else. So I'll write my answer in one of my junk journals. I write it all out, and then I'm like, cover it up quickly, quickly before I die. Don't have a heart attack and leave that,
Exactly. But you got it out, and that's
I got it
you
out.
got it out. But I think God, as you just mentioned, God's speaking through you, so you're able to do that. Let's see. In retirement, I'm finally able to have creative time. I feel better if I have a project going all of the time. Visual faith fits me good. Creativity in all areas of life, including in meditation. Well, thank you so much. And then Donna said, this is so on. We are doing abstract optical illusion art in our middle school class. And I've suddenly gained the attention of the non-attentive students.
Yes.
Love that art can open the door to so many different.
Yes. ADD kids have a brain that's just wired a little differently. Mm-hmm. And for me, I can't have any noise, any sound when I read. So I thought that is how everyone was. So here, all of a sudden, I have biological adopted kids, and 5 out of my 6 are like, distracted. And each of them, it manifests differently. So they're distracted in different ways. But one of my sons said, can I wear earphones? And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Noise canceling earphones. And he goes, no, to play music. So I'm like, you can play music, but with no words, like only soundtracks to movies, I had no idea. So he would do that, and he was able to read, he was able to write. And I'm like, that's just weird. And then next one down comes of age, a little bit older, and they're like, can I wear, and they're like punk music screaming in their ears. And I'm like, how can they do their schoolwork? But that noise cancels everything out, and it calms, and they're able to concentrate. Total opposite than my brain.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me at all.
Yeah,
for sure. Donna said, the Lord has definitely led you to this place as a mother, teacher, and artist. It is amazing how our struggles through life can end up being the strengths that bless others. That's really very, very right on, Donna.
I was a social worker out of college, and which is crazy. I went to college with I had to hire a tutor my freshman year for freshman English. And they were like, you have such great ideas. I said, yeah, it's all there. None of it's getting to here. And when I graduated, I was a social worker and worked in the juvenile justice system in Texas, and worked at the parole office, became a parole officer. A very high percentage of, if you want to call delinquent children, have learning disabilities.
Correct.
And it's when you're in school, you're smart enough to know there's a problem. I knew I was tracked by 3rd grade. I knew I was in the dumb class. And thank goodness I was good in math. I was finally outgoing again when I started talking again. I think I started talking in 2nd or 3rd grade after being punished for so long for speaking Spanish. And I also was a dancer. So I had something that I was good at. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel, and I had very supportive parents. So I really feel that helped me stay out of the delinquent. But if you don't have that, you're feeling stupid. You don't have any idea why you can't read. You can't do letters, and so often art actually becomes an outlet if they happen to be artistic, what an art teacher considers artistic.
Correct.
It can be an out, but they are artistic. They just don't know it.
Well, one of the things that I learned, kind of like you had to learn the hard way, is my oldest son is extremely intelligent. He is an artist, not an artist the way I'm an artist. His art is in the passion that he discovered when he was 16 years old, which was auto body repair and engine work. So he works on cars. And if you would see what he creates in a car, and he's the one that could read a technical manual, but could not read a novel. Okay.
Right.
And I learned later on with my other 2 boys that public schools are set up for visual first learners and then auditory second. So if you can watch them writing on a board, you're going to learn. Or if you can hear them say the words, you're going to do fine in public school. Well, my oldest son, that's not how he learns. He was a kinesthetic learner. So if he manipulated and worked on parts and cars, he got straight A's. But the minute they told him, sit down and read this novel, he was just totally lost and he failed. He would fail. He couldn't read it. So I love what you were saying about homeschooling, because when you homeschool, you get to teach to your child's strengths and to have them do things that help them learn in different ways than public school. And again, not one is right or one is wrong.
Right.
It's just that you have to, a mother, take that on.
There's good that there's options out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Connie said, your story, Denise, brings much encouragement for all of us as we try to fit this all together. What makes sense for visual faith practices. And the beauty of visual faith is really because it's for kinesthetic people. So as you're saying, if you're really not a writer, okay, if you can't draw, I can't draw. So I do the same thing. I take the images of Sally Beck and some of our other artists, and I can manipulate that and tell this beautiful, colorful story, but I can't ever draw. People say, well, you can. I'm like, no, I can't draw. I'm an artist, but I can't draw. Doesn't mean I'm not an artist. I am an artist. So visual faith, we are so blessed with all the artists who donate, who create and give us all of their art for free that you can get, on our website. So
what I've really enjoyed recently is the worship into the week, because you put together the backgrounds and things like that. And that's what I use a lot of. Since I love color, I love layers. I print that off, rip it a little bit, throw an image on top, whatever I'm studying in the Bible, or I feel God talking to me that day. I can even print up a word, stickers, anything like that.
Correct.
And your page is done.
Yeah. And if you don't know about the worship into the week, it's actually a subscription. So we put together a package every month, and it includes usually it's 30 things in there, and it's $5 a month. It includes all of the lectionary readings and all the drawings. And we have these, as I said, wonderful artists who create those, put those together. Linda Ekong, who is our, who helps me with the website. She and I are partners. I shouldn't say help me. We're partners doing all that. She's in charge of the shop. She puts that together. And then I make verse art. I get all the jelly prints. And this past month, Denise and Candace shared some of their jelly prints with me. So you all got them, and I gave you an extra one. There was 7 in this month's kit. And then I've done it into alphabets. And so you're right. If you want to get the best $5 mixed media package, it's Worship into the Week, because it's got all of the verses in there, and it's got the colors and all the fun things to, really make it work. And Emily just posted the Worship into the Week that you can get. Now, the good news is, if you haven't signed up for the retreat, and shame on you, you should have already signed up. The Works package, the Works ticket, actually includes a 1-year subscription to Worship into the Week. So if you're paying $63, you're actually getting a $60 value, because that's how much it would cost if you were purchasing that every week. And that comes included with 12 videos, 40 pages of faith art. Let me go on and on and on. So it's the best deal of all. So any last minute advice do you have for anybody that has children, or they now understand that they have some learning issues and challenges? Any advice you would give any of those people?
My first advice, if you have a child with it, if it's your own brain, I have advice to that as well. But if it's your child or a grandchild, is to get testing as soon as possible. There's so much out there now. And this is a plug for schools. If you get an IEP very early on, you can get help. And if you homeschool, we had an IEP in the local school system. So my children did language school classes in the local school, even though we were homeschooling. Another thing, totally off topic and not art, is diet has a massive influence. Our son, he, been going to a psychiatrist for years and years and years and years and years, and on a ton of medication. And we had found about this Feingold diet, decided, what's worth a try. We had another child who had issues with red dyes, went on this diet, and we had a brand new child. I was utterly shocked. He went off most of his medication, completely different. Another way is when these children are struggling, the parent is struggling because they're like, what's going on with my child? They're not learning the way they should, is we all are wired differently. So there's nothing wrong with that child. The child is just wired differently, and God does not make mistakes. God has wired that child exactly how they're supposed to be. And so for years, they didn't know what dyslexia was. Now they go, oh, this is what dyslexia is. They're actually intelligent, but for years, people thought they weren't. Same as ADHD. For years, it was a very big negative. My son wanted to be in the military, and they were like, you can't be in the military if you have ADHD. I'm like, are you kidding? This kid is the one who can jump off a ship if you want him to, jump out of a plane, you know? But now ADHD is looked at very differently. They realize it's just a different wire in the brain. And there's actually companies out there that recruit people that have it. So no matter what your child has, that is what they're supposed to have. Labels are labels. I like labels because once I know what something is, I can research it and study it and figure out what's the best for this person. But other people don't like labels, and that's fine. It's what's up for you.
And what
but these children need an outlet as much as the parent needs an outlet. When you are raising a child who is different, who is running, like my third son, from the second he was born to now, he's a naval officer, does not stop. He's nonstop. As a child, let's just say he was a handful. And for parenting a child like that, you need an outlet yourself, because these children don't stop, and it is nonstop.
And you can use visual faith as your outlet. Can
you say I'm enjoying an empty nest? I love being an empty nester. And I love my children, but
it's true. And you can use visual faith as your outlet, because that's
very much so
a way to spend time with God and doing art.
Right. And you don't need to get into all of the mixed media. You can just print off a page from visual faith, get some colored pencils and color it in. It does not have to be what I do and what you do. Do not compare yourself. Just start somewhere. And if you are around someone with special needs, an adult or a child, or with learning disabilities, give them different options. Some of my children with special needs, they don't want any outlet. In the sense of they didn't like the art that I was, giving them. But then I gave a sewing machine to my daughter, and she's like, just keep changing it up and see what they
trying things,
that sparks their interest. And the person that I work with Parkinson's dementia, she can't do very much, but she's able to rip, she's able to glue. And, we make beautiful things that, she hangs up on her wall and things like that. And, it's beauty in and of itself, even though someone else might go, what's that? Well, that's what she can do. And it's art, and it's colorful. And,
It is wonderful. Well, we're almost out of time tonight, so I'm just going to give a plug that please sign up for our Abide Retreat. It is free. I've been talking about the different packages, but it is free. It is free for 24 hours. There's lots of videos. There's lots of things in the free package that you will really enjoy. And we hope that you will take the time to come to the retreat, because as Denise started off the whole conversation tonight was, this past year of COVID, everybody's stressed. I don't know who isn't stressed. How have you not?
Me, because I'm in my art room now.
Exactly. And our whole point in putting this virtual retreat together was to recognize that and to hopefully give people some tools and practices and kind of walk you through things that you can do to deal with that stress, that sadness, that depression, that grief, maybe because you've lost somebody. So we really hope you will come to the retreat. You can sign up for it. We have tons of ads in our Facebook group, and we just hope that you will come and be with us. Next Tuesday, that is going to be a really special night because we are going to have all of our presenters will be on the Tuesdays at 8 call with me. So you will get to see them, hear them. They're going to give a little quick version of what they're going to be sharing with you on that coming Saturday. So don't forget to tune in next week. So thank you very much, Denise. I really appreciate your time this evening for coming and sharing your heart. And thank you for the faith art that you've been able to share with us tonight.
Well, thank you.
So, as always, join us next week for conversation, encouragement, and inspiration. As always, follow-up conversations are in our Visual Faith Facebook group. Please join us there. This is broadcast. This event, Tuesdays at 8, is always in our Visual Faith Facebook group. And then I always put up this exact video up onto our YouTube channel if you're a YouTuber. Thank you very much and have a good evening.